Well, while the UK is struggling with political instability, the economic instability is becoming increasingly worrying for average households, as the impact of rising inflation looms over both the economy and, of course, public spending. As the UK cost of living crisis deepens, new data released by the Food Foundation charity says millions of people are forced to skip meals, and in some cases, people are not eating for the entire day. Data suggests nearly 1 in 5 low-income families experienced food insecurity in September. This means more people went hungry than during the first weeks of the COVID-19 lockdown. According to the Foundation's latest tracker, hunger levels have doubled since January, with nearly 10 million adults and 4 million children unable to eat regular meals last month. This has prompted calls for stronger measures to protect vulnerable households. The measures include demands for free school meals to be made available to an extra 800,000 children, and several activists have also condemned the government's refusal to rule out real terms cuts to benefits. According to the Food Foundation charity, last month more than 18% of UK households said they had reduced the size of their meals. 11% of households reported not eating despite being hungry, and 6% said they'd not eaten for a whole day. Meanwhile, a joint statement by organisations representing more than 2,000 UK food banks says they are struggling to meet unprecedented demand. Well, for more on this story, we can now go to our correspondent, Alex Isert, who's joining us from London now. Alex, just take us through some of these findings by the Food Foundation. They're pretty troubling statistics.
Absolutely. They are shocking, especially in a country that is so wealthy. It does seem really awful to hear that 1 in 5 are potentially not being able to eat, that having that food insecurity. And this, although it has got higher since September, it's actually been a problem for many years. In 2014, the Foundation also put out a report that suggests that there was a huge amount of food insecurity back then as well. Now, this particular report, as you mentioned a few there for the statistics, also talks about the millions of adults and children who can't get their food. And with that, as also with the Trussell Trust has also put out their own statement, which also suggests that they're seeing the same thing. With those 2,000 food banks putting together a statement asking for more unprecedented help, they are saying that they are at their limit, that there isn't enough food coming in, and there does really need to be a huge change to the system. You mentioned there about potentially giving free school meals. Well, a couple of days ago, last week in fact, Therese Coffey and Jamie Oliver seem to be at loggerheads over this exact issue. So 800,000 extra free school meals could potentially be given out. However, there is actually an issue here with who do they go to? Jamie Oliver suggested that anyone with universal credit should be getting a free school meal. However, people who can earn up to £40,000 are on universal credit. So there seems to be a real issue here with the benefit system that the UK government is putting into place and what actually they're giving back. But ultimately, it shouldn't be reliant on the universal credit and those changes that potentially are going to come in next year for the price cap freeze. This is an issue that has been going on for far too long. And it seems now that since COVID and since some of the support is taken away, people are very worried and looking for food banks. They're looking for help. They're looking for community fridges, looking to their community to help them. And that is a really worrying trend.
One of the biggest redistributors of food waste from supermarkets, they basically take food from the shelves that are supposedly out of date but are still edible, and they redistribute them to charities in order to allow people to be given meals. That's a charity called FareShare. They're saying that basically because now supermarkets are trying to reduce the amount of food waste that they produce, they're seeing a drop in donations. Is also people's incomes being hit by that inflation rise, maybe reducing the amount that they might be able to give to charities or perhaps donate in food? Is that going to hit those food banks as well, Alex?
I think the issue there with the food wastage, and that has also been something that has been rumbling on for many years. And going into any supermarket now, the shelves still aren't full. And we've had this problem since COVID began, when we weren't getting as many deliveries because of some of the issues getting the food into the country. So not even having that product on the shelf is obviously causing a huge issue for many people, and people are choosing cheaper options when they go to the supermarket. The fruit and vegetables aren't always cheap and go off quite quickly, so that we're looking towards, you know, a potential obesity dynamic here, because people are using more cheaper food, which is obviously full of sugars, carbohydrates, all of those kind of things. And then we're hearing also takeaways are potentially going to be doing a buy now, pay later, which could lead a lot of people into debt because they really need to eat now, but they just can't afford it. And where does that lead us? So all of these things are coming to a head at the moment because people are just looking for where can they eat, making sure that their children are getting enough, making sure that they are getting enough as well. And there also is a real issue here with food and with mental health issues that we've been seeing a lot since COVID has come about, because there was no extra support back then. So people are also looking for help in any way they can. The government last week suggested that they were going to put in £120 million to help with mental health, and that will include giving some extra costs to food. But where this food is coming from, well, that's a good question, because we aren't really producing that much within the UK, and we do rely a lot on exports and imports. So that needs to be also resolved. It seems to be that a lot of things have come together at one moment. We're still having problems with deliveries and distributions. We're still having issues with food waste, which is still going on despite it not going to these charities. There does seem a lot of things at the moment which are causing people to really be concerned. And now they've heard, of course, that in April that the price cap will no longer be available for them, and they're concerned about the future. Are bills going to go up? Should now there be a choice between eating and heating? All of these worries, our concerns are going on to most of the population.
Alex, a very complicated picture building here in the UK with that cost of living crisis. Alex Isett in London, thank you.